Good morning, all of you. So, in this lecture, we are going to discuss with the remaining part of our spectroscopy. So, while studying spectroscopy, we started with the introduction of the spectroscopy. In that, we have just seen the spectrum of the electromagnetic radiations starting from your cosmic rays to radio waves. In that, the electromagnetic radiations of the different wavelengths, like your ultraviolet radiations, IR radiations, and radio frequency waves, we are going to deal with these radiations. In this topic, spectroscopy, we have seen the introductory part of the spectroscopy. We have dealt with the ultraviolet spectroscopy, which gives the information regarding the presence of the double bond, triple bond, dynes, trines, alpha beta unsaturated systems, and the stereochemistry of the molecule, whether it is cis or trans. And by passing the ultraviolet radiations, it gives you the electronic excitation, and this electronic excitation is a high energy excitation which needs high energy. So the vibrational and rotational excitations are associated with this, and so the bands obtained are broad in nature. Then we studied the IR spectroscopy, in which these are the low energy radiations, and as they are the low energy radiations, the information obtained regarding the organic molecule by using IR radiations is the nature of functional group or the type of functional group which is present in an organic compound. So ultraviolet spectroscopy does not provide that much information to an organic chemist, but IR in spectroscopy is very important for the studies of the structures of the organic molecule. Means in the elucidation of the structure of the organic molecules, IR spectroscopy plays an important role for determining the functional groups. So we have gone through the details of IR spectroscopy, which is associated with the low energy radiations and gives about vibrational and rotational excitation. Now, in this topic, we are going to deal with the proton magnetic resonance spectroscopy, or which is also termed as nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. So, these are the two names. So, here, when we say nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, means we are going to deal with the nuclei of an atom. Nuclei of an atom, and so the nuclei that we are going to consider for our studies is proton, and that's why it is termed as proton magnetic resonance spectroscopy. So, the phenomenon of the proton magnetic resonance spectroscopy was first introduced in 1946. Was first introduced in 1946 in the Stanford University. Then in 1950, the first NMR spectra of ethyl alcohol was recorded by Arnold, Dharmati and Packard. And in 1952, the two discoverers, Bloch and Purcell, received the first, or were awarded the first Nobel Prize, in NMR studies, and these two scientists were from the physics. And then in 1991, the second Nobel Prize was given in NMR chemistry and was awarded to Richard Ernest. Richard Ernest for the discoveries of advanced methodologies. So this is the history, and so methodologies. In this, it has been become a routine in organic chemistry since 1960. Since 1960, use of NMR has become a routine in organic chemistry. In organic chemistry, and so the subject has grown very fast because the structural elucidation become very easy for the scientist. When the molecules absorb the UV and IR radiations, the electrical component was considered, means UV and IR spectroscopy. In the studies of UV and IR spectroscopy, electrical component of the radiations was considered. And this electrical and magnetic component, this interacts with the molecules, components interacts with the molecule and gives you the different types of interactions. Gives you the different types of informations. So here in this study, in PMR spectroscopy or NMR spectroscopy, in the PMR spectroscopy or the NMR spectroscopy, the interaction, the interaction of the magnetic component of the magnetic component of the magnetic component of the electromagnetic radiations with nuclei, and in that we are going to consider proton as a nuclei. Sorry, with the nuclei, that is proton of the of certain atoms, proton of certain atoms in the molecule, and that gives, so the name is given the proton magnetic resonance spectroscopy. And so the radiations which are used in the PMR spectroscopy, in PMR, the radiations which are used means the atom is exposed in PMR spectroscopy, the atom is exposed to very low energy, to very low energy, longer wavelength radiations, wavelength radiations, longer wavelength radiations, that is lambda, which is equal to 1000 to 10,000 centimeters, and the radiations used are known as the radio waves, radio waves. And so the proton is excited to the higher energy level. The proton of the atom, which is lying in the nuclei, is excited to higher energy level, and the absorption spectrum absorption spectrum is obtained, and so it provides a lot of valuable information valuable information of the structure of molecule. Means here we can just keep in our mind, in short, that since 1946 the studies of NMR spectroscopy has become, and means it has been started, and from 1960 organic chemists started using this in a routine work to determine the structure of an organic compound. Here the interaction of the magnetic component of the electromagnetic radiation with the nuclei or the proton which is situated in the nuclei of a certain atoms is taking place, and so these molecules are exposed to a very low energy, that is the longer wavelength radio waves, and so the proton, by absorbing the energy, is getting excited from a lower energy level to the higher energy level, and this absorption in the spectrum is recorded, which gives you a lot of information. So the basic principle that lies, means here the basic principle that we want to deal with the PMR spectroscopy, That is the basic principle of PMR spectroscopy. So what we get here? So the we are exposing the atom. Here we are exposing the nuclei of an atom. Nuclei of an atom. So when we are considering the nuclei, or when we say that this is an atom, here the protons and neutrons are situated in the nuclei, and the electrons are revolving around the nuclei. So this is your nuclei. Nuclei contains your protons and neutrons. These are electrons revolving around the nucleus. And when the electron is revolving around the nucleus, this space where or which is where the electron is revolving is the orbit, or it is termed as your orbital. So our concern is that with the proton. So here electrons are negatively charged and protons are positively charged, and neutrons are neutral in nature. Neutrons are neutral in nature. So atom as a whole is neutral. Atom as a whole is neutral. And so here means electrically this is neutral in nature. And so we are concerned with the proton only. We are concerned with the proton only, which is the positively charged particle. And so when we say that the electron is revolving around the nucleus, electron is revolving around the nucleus, and so if we just place an atom in the axis, that is the x and y axis or the z axis. So what happens when the nucleus is revolving, when the atom is electrons are revolving around the nucleus, the atom is also having a tendency to rotate around its own axis. So when the atom also rotates or it spins around its own axis, and when it rotates around its own axis means the atom revolves around its own axis. Atom the nuclei of atoms spins or revolves about their axis, and when they rotate around their axis they create a magnetic field. They create a magnetic field. And so when they create a magnetic field directed along the axis of the spin, they create a magnetic field that directs along the axis of spin. So this nuclei, this nuclei, this nuclei acts as a tiny bar magnet. Acts as a tiny bar magnet. Means see that when we say the atom as a whole, so here atom contains a nucleus and the electrons are revolving around the nucleus. But here when this not only electrons but the nuclei also revolves around its own axis. Some of the nuclei of some of the atoms, nuclei of some of the atoms revolves around their own axis and creates a magnetic field which aligns along the axis of the spin. And this such type of nuclei will act as a tiny bar magnet. And now which nuclei can spin, which nucleus can be magnetic or create a magnetic field? So only those nuclei, only those nuclei, only those nuclei which having the spin quantum number, the spin quantum number greater than 0, greater than 0 means the spin quantum number I must be greater than 0 possesses spin, possesses spin. Means here we are coming to a conclusion that there are different types of atoms that are involved in a molecule formation. Carbon is there, hydrogen is there, oxygen is there, nitrogen is there, then sometimes sulfur comes there, halogen comes there, and such type of atoms which are involved in the molecule. All the atoms are not, the nucleus of all the atoms does not have a tendency to spin around their own axis. Only those atoms which are having the spin quantum number, or those nuclei which are having the spin quantum number greater than 0, can only spin and possesses a spin greater than 0, can act as a tiny bar magnet, or and so we are supposed to first of all consider, and which possesses spin behaves as behaves as magnetic, behaves as magnetic. And so the first thing that we want to do, we want to consider, that we want to decide the types of magnetic and non-magnetic nuclei, magnetic and non-magnetic nuclei. So while considering the magnetic and non-magnetic nuclei, we are supposed to check the atomic number, the mass number, and the spin number. And so here we will deal with the different types of, depending upon the spin quantum number, we can group the nuclei in different categories. And so depending upon depending upon depending on basis of spin quantum number, depending upon spin quantum number I, we can group the nuclei into three categories, three categories. And so what are these three categories that we will see? So the three categories, depending upon the dependence of spin number on atomic mass and atomic number. So we will just see the three categories. So here's serial number, then the mass number of the atom, then the atomic number of the atom, then the spin number, that is I, and the examples of the atoms. So here first, the atoms which are having odd mass number and the atomic number may be even or odd. See, mass number must be odd and atomic number may be even or odd, are going to have the spin quantum number in fragments, that is half, 3 by 2, 5 by 2, etc., and will be termed as magnetic because it is greater than 0, because the spin quantum number I is greater than 0. The example for of such type of atoms, that is H11. So see, the atomic number is 1 and the atomic mass is 1. Carbon 6 and atomic number, sorry, mass number may be odd, that is 13. C613, that is the isotope of carbon. Then fluorine 9, 19. Here again the atomic number is odd and the mass number is also odd. And phosphorus 15 and 31. Then the second category of the nuclei will have the even mass number and odd atomic number, odd atomic number, and so we'll have the spin quantum number 1, 2, 3, 4, and etc. and when the spin quantum number is greater than 0, the nucleus will be magnetic in nature. And so here D1, that is atomic number is 1 and the mass number is 2, that is D12 means deuterium. Then nitrogen 714 is again magnetic in nature. And the third category, that is your even mass number and even atomic number. The atoms means here the magnetic spin quantum number is 0, and so these are termed as non-magnetic nuclei. These are termed as non-magnetic nuclei. And so here beryllium 4 8, then your carbon 6 12, then oxygen 8 16, then your carbon it's a sulfur 1632. So these are all non-magnetic. And so here we can, the nuclear magnetic studies, where the nucleus which we are going to consider is your hydrogen. So when we are going to consider hydrogen as the nucleus, where hydrogen is the nucleus for NMR study, or the, that's why it is termed as PMR, that is the hydrogen is proton, and so is the nucleus for NMR study. Why we are using this? Because you see that the magnetic nuclei here are your hydrogen carbon C613, means this is the isotopic hydrogen. The ratio or the abundance of this type of atom in the compounds is less. Fluorine is also not present in all the compounds, phosphorus is not present in all the compounds, deuterium is not present in all the compounds, nitrogen is not present in all the compounds. So the abundance of H11, that is the proton, is more in organic compounds, and the carbon 612 is found in all the organic compounds, which is non-magnetic. And so when we take the example of, or when we see the different types of organic compounds having the different types of functional groups, which forms the different kinds of homologous series, so out of all this, only proton is the nucleus which is magnetic in nature and can be used for our study. So the abundance of hydrogen, that is H or proton, is more, and therefore considered as a nuclei for NMR spectroscopy studies, And so in this way we are treating this as proton magnetic resonance spectroscopy, And so in the next lecture we will deal with this proton magnetic resonance spectroscopy, as the abundance of hydrogen in the organic compounds is more. That's why it is considered. Thank you very much. So in the next lecture we will continue.